Hello, Paul Wilkinson here. This is a tribute to the wonderful William Kinghorn, or Bill Kinghorn, or if you're one of his students or friends, Uncle Bill. And this is a tribute to his life and his legacy. And I'm doing this video hopefully that a few other people who were touched by Bill's wisdom can maybe leave a few comments. That would be really lovely. There's been an article done for the London Jazz Press, which is really great. I'll put the link in the video for that as well. So I first met Bill probably around 2000 when I was studying in Leeds, and he struck me as a person that I'd never met before, somebody with extraordinary consciousnness. The quality of the will that comes to your attention is dependent upon the quality of the attention that you bring. And Bill was had, dare we say, extraordinary consciousness, and was interested in removing the veil of reality to find the true self, free from the ego. That's maybe why his pieces are not that well known, because Bill wasn't one of those people. I remember him telling me once the BBC had rung him up, and a producer, and he forgot to ring them back. That was the kind of man Bill was, really. So when I first met him in 2000, it was in his harmony lectures, and then I asked him if he would teach me piano, and he said maybe, and I think I met him in the summer in Leeds, at the music college, maybe. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it must have been at the college. Yeah, I think so. It wasn't at his house at that point. And I'll never forget. I played him. I think I played him a jazz standard. I think I played "Beautiful Love" for him, and I played the tune, and I sort of started to improvise. Like, played about 2 notes, and he stopped me, and then he asked me why I'd picked these notes, and I was kind of I didn't know how to answer such a question, because I like him, but he was interested in the real meaning behind my playing. I remember he then gave me this awful chord progression that was just hideous, and it moved all over the place. He didn't have any narrative to it. It was jumping around everywhere. But I managed to find, I had a quick look through it, and I found that I could just play one note over all the chord changes. So for my improvisation, I just played the one, I call it a B flat. I just played one note over and over these chord changes. And they were moving, F minor, B flat major 7, A major. They were moving all over the show. And he paused and he sort of went, that was the answer. I will take you as a student. Studying with Bill was a joy, really. He didn't look at things from an analytical perspective. He liked to really unpack them from a felt sense, and was open to all sorts of things. And I used to bring many things to the lesson. And I was also amazed at Bill's just the breadth of music he was aware of. 1 minute we would be, and this got even greater as we became close friends. But early on, he would be as obsessed with Alban Berg's Piano Sonata, and as much as he would be a William Walton Symphony, for example. So those lessons were truly enriching and life-changing. And then after I left music college, we always kept in contact. We would speak on the phone. A month probably wouldn't go by without us having a conversation, maybe even every few weeks. We would talk deeply about music, consciousness, awareness. Early on in some of my piano lessons, Bill quoted some P.D. Ouspensky to me. He said, when one realises that one is asleep, in that moment one is already half awake. Quite something to take as a young man that started me on a journey that had already begun with my interest in. Bill was a great partner in that journey. And then later on, we always spoke, as I said. We would always have conversations. He would always send me scores when he'd written a new piece, and I would have a go through it. I encouraged him to write a set of pieces for children, which are available. Again, I made a connection for him with a publisher, so they're available to purchase still, I would say, that he wrote for children about grade 2 or 3, and we had lots of dialogue about that and sent them back and forth. And that was really, that was wonderful to share that. I encouraged him to change notes, and he was steadfast that would change the harmonic landscape. And I was like, but that would make it easier for the child. He was like, And so we had this beautiful dialogue together about that. And then I remember writing my 24 preludes for piano and sending them Bill, and he said how much he admired them and how much he'd played through them. My first piano sonata, which I wrote in 2000, I dedicated to Bill. I also wrote later on a piano concerto called Remembering, which is also a piece that is dedicated to Bill, and in his favourite harmonic landscape, the British pastoral composers, such as Finzi, and we always used to talk a lot on the phone about his love of that. So these composers that maybe don't have the respect they deserve. Our conversations always would come back to Bill Evans, but we would always talk about the British composer Arnold Cook, Finzi, Walton, Vaughan Williams. Bill obviously met, well, I say obviously, but some of you will know, but Bill was in this recorded consort, and I remember him telling me when he met Benjamin Britten. He also had the option to study with Nadia Boulanger, who had taught so many great composers. He once said to me she would have crucified him. So we always had a very rich dialogue on the phone, and we would meet a number of times a year for a meal at one of Bill's favourite restaurants in Harrogate, and my wife would come as well sometimes, and we would continue those conversations. And when I wrote my first symphony, I rung Bill and asked him if I could send him it to have a look. He said, why? And of course, Bill's phrase was, questions open doors and answers close them. And questions are more important than answers, So I explained to him that I'd like him to have a look at it, and he went, oh, very well. So I sent him it, and so it's quite a big work, and I didn't get anything back for a few weeks, and then it came back in the post, and I think it only said a couple of things on it. He'd reorchestrated the opening couple of bars for me, which was magical how he'd done that. But then on the first page, he just wrote, you'll be lucky, lad. And then on the second movement, he wrote, this outstays his welcome, which it was far too long. And I'd already been talking to my wife about how long it was. And anyway, Bill put the nail in the coffin. We had the conversation then afterwards about that. But I found that really amusing. And then, gosh, I could talk for hours and hours about some of the fun times we had. I always used to go with him to the rehearsal of his orchestral pieces, so his bassoon concerto, the Third Symphony, the violin concerto. So I would always a pair of ears, and then we would sort of dissect it after the rehearsal and talk about things that didn't go well and things that did. Bill used to say, some of the things I've written I didn't hear, and some of the things I've heard I didn't write, so. And they were really fun times because they were always involved in a car journey, and we would talk greatly about that. I was in a group called Silent Songs with Jamie Taylor and Gary Jackson, and he'd recently written some pieces called Memoirs for piano, and there was one in particular called Wistful Waltz, which I thought would be magical if it was arranged for us. So I asked him if he'd write a lead sheet, and he did, and he was really chuffed with that, and we felt the weight of Bill when we recorded that. It was a very warm day, I remember, and So that was a lovely project to be involved in. Watching the Vaughan Williams documentary, and at the end there was one of Vaughan Williams' assistants was talking about how he helped him with his compositions and things, and how he was, you know, a great help to him. And as that finished, I remember thinking, oh, you know, I play a small part in trying to help Bill with some of his pieces. And then in that moment, the phone rang, and you guessed it, it was Bill. And so his music will live on. He's written so many pieces, concertos, oratorios, piano sonatas. There's a very large breadth of music that Bill has left us, and me and a friend of mine, Nigel Weirs, hope to keep that music alive, you know. One thing that's just come up now is I remember once, like after I'd written some orchestral piece I was working on, and I went to take it to Bill's, and he looked at it and didn't say much, but he pulled me to the window and he said, what do you see? And I was like, grass? No. Cars? No. Trees? No. Look nearer. I looked and I went, window? He went, windows. No windows in your music. See you next week. So it was a pleasure to have known this man as he travels on wherever he may be now. I could speak forever, and maybe I'll do another, but this is a tribute to a man who I can't imagine where my life would have been if I hadn't met him and had deep discussions. Because putting all aside music, the major discussions that me and Bill often shared was about attention, awareness, and consciousness, and our love of Walt Whitman, T.S. Eliot, Gurdjieff, P.D. Ouspensky, Sufism, Subud, Vedanta. The traditions go on. And that was something we talked about more than music, because music doesn't come from music. So as I say, I'm hoping to keep some of Bill's music alive, and maybe share some of the recordings. Between me and my friend Nigel Weirs, we have most of the orchestral scores, and there's so many funny stories I could tell. So I'd love if you were a student of Bill's, or knew Bill, or his neighbours or friends who met him in Harrogate. It'd be lovely to hear any of your comments. That would really make me smile very much. But he lived a life in music, and he worked very hard and very diligently, and he left us this wonderful music, and he touched so many people, and encouraged them to change their attention and perception of reality. And I think people who had good attention could see that in Bill, and also that wicked sense of humour he used to have. I remember once going in, and I'll finish with this. I remember once going into a piano lesson, and there was a young boy. I think it was when I was a teacher. Because we crossed over. I was a student, and then I became a lecturer. So I used to share a lot of time with him, as I know a lot of other people did. So I enjoyed his company greatly in that respect. But I remember going in to just talk to him or something, and as I opened the door, he was just saying to the young man, "You must always practice." unless the young lady next door is really attractive. So, William Kinghorn, A Life in Music. A pleasure to have known you, sir, and to be forever changed by your presence. Please leave your comments if you knew Bill. That would be wonderful.